House of Atreus. The House of Atreus wasn't just unlucky. It was cursed so hard, every family reunion looked like a crime scene. Atreus himself started the tradition of winning arguments in the worst way possible, by cooking his brother Thyestes' kids and serving them for dinner. Forget family drama. This was fine dining revenge, but the curse didn't stop at one nightmare meal. Atreus' son Agamemnon sacrificed his daughter just to get the winds to blow for war. He came home a hero, then got murdered in the bathtub by his wife. Their son Orestes killed his mom to even the score, and the Furies, actual monsters of guilt, chased him across Greece. This family wasn't just cursed. It was a full-blown horror anthology passed down by blood. House of Tantalus. But even Atreus had an ancestor who made all this doom possible. Tantalus. And his crime was so outrageous, the gods basically invented the phrase, "Don't try this at home." He chopped up his own son, Pelops, and served him at a feast for the Olympians. The gods spat it out, rebuilt Pelops, and tossed Tantalus into eternal punishment, forever reaching for food and water he could never touch. That's where we get the word tantalize. The curse didn't end with him. The gods let the stain sink deep into his bloodline. From Pelops to Atreus, Agamemnon to Orestes, the family carried the debt like divine inheritance. One crime became multi-generational doom. Think of it like a spiritual scar. Every child is born already marked. Oedipus. Next stop, Thebes, where oracles are never wrong and ignorance is not bliss. King Laius was cursed after kidnapping a boy, and the gods warned him his own son would kill him. Enter Oedipus, who grows up not knowing his real parents, kills a stranger on the road. Oops, that's dad. Then marries the widowed queen. Yep, mom. When the truth comes out, Jocasta hangs herself, and Oedipus blinds himself. But the curse doesn't stop there. His sons Eteocles and Polynices go full Cain and Abel, killing each other in battle. This bloodline is a domino chain of patricide, incest, and fratricide. Basically, if you were born a Theban royal, your best option was to nope out of family dinners. The Danaïdes. 50 daughters, one curse. The Danaïdes were told to marry the 50 sons of Aegyptus, but their father Danaos had other plans. On their wedding night, 49 of them murdered their husbands in bed, turning the honeymoon into a horror film. Only one daughter spared her husband, Hypermnestra, because she wasn't into the whole stab-your-groom tradition. The gods punished the sisters by condemning them in the afterlife to fill leaky jugs with water forever. The ultimate busy work punishment. No matter how much they carried, the water never stayed. This bloodline's curse wasn't just murder, it was eternal futility. Their family legacy boiled down to betrayal and pointless labor. Imagine being remembered not for love, but for cosmic dishwashing duty. Völsung dynasty. Now for the Norse version of Game of Thrones on hard mode, the Völsungs. It kicks off with King Völsung, whose son Sigmund ends up pulling a magic sword out of a tree. Very Excalibur, but bloodier. Things get messy when Sigmund's sister Sini marries the wrong guy and engineers a plan for vengeance that involves disguises, betrayals, and, let's just say, questionable family relations. Eventually, Sigmund's son Sigurd grows up to slay the dragon Fafnir with that same sword, only to get tangled in a cursed love triangle that leads to murder, betrayal, and everyone stabbing everyone. This dynasty's curse? Unstoppable cycles of revenge and doomed love. In Norse myth, if you had Völsung on your name tag, chances were you were not making retirement. The Ring of Andvari. If the Völsungs weren't doomed enough, enter the cursed bling. The Ring of Andvari. A dwarf named Andvari owned a stash of gold, including this shiny little ring. When Loki stole it, Andvari cursed the treasure. Anyone who owned it would meet disaster. Classic Norse customer service. The gold passed from god to king to hero, leaving corpses in its wake. Sigurd, after slaying Fafnir the dragon, took the hoard and the ring. And that's when betrayal and tragedy really kicked into high gear. Sound familiar? Yep. Wagner's Ring Cycle and even Tolkien's One Ring were inspired by this. The curse here wasn't about family, but greed itself. Every dynasty that touched the ring went down in flames. Literally, in some versions, Zahak. Zahak was Persia's nightmare king. At first, he was just a prince with bad judgment. Then the devil kissed his shoulders, literally, and 2 snakes popped out. Not exactly crown material. The snakes weren't decorative either. They demanded fresh human brains every day. So Zahak's reign turned into a feeding frenzy, with his people paying the bill. Eventually, the hero Faradin rose up, chained Zahak inside a mountain, and saved the kingdom. But legends say he's not dead. He's just waiting, biding his time until the world is weakest. Zahak's curse wasn't just snakes or tyranny, it was the idea that evil rulers never truly go away. They just sleep, ready to crawl back when people forget the cost. Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama was born with a gemstone in his forehead that made him invincible. Basically, baby's first cheat code. But curses don't care about armor. During the Mahabharata War, he snapped after his father's death and went on a revenge spree, slaughtering warriors in their tents and even striking down unborn children. That crossed the cosmic line. Krishna cursed him to walk the earth forever. Diseased, rejected, unkillable, immortality turned into eternal humiliation. He became the ghost who couldn't check out, stuck in an endless loop of regret. Some say he still wanders battlefields, crying out in the night. Ashwatthama's curse wasn't just on him, it was a warning. Power might protect your body, but cruelty corrodes everything else. Children of Lear. The Children of Lear were Ireland's most tragic bedtime story. 4 royal kids, loved by their father, hated by their jealous stepmother. So she cursed them into swans. Not for a season, not for a spell. 900 years of floating from lake to sea. They kept their voices, singing songs so sad warriors broke down in tears. That was their curse, beauty trapped in grief. When Christianity finally spread to Ireland, they changed back into humans, but instantly aged, withered, and died. The curse lifted, only to end in loss. The story became a symbol of exile, suffering, and the fading of the old Celtic gods. Even today, swans on Irish waters carry the echo of Lear's children. Kullervo. Kullervo is Finland's poster child for tragic curses. His family was murdered, he was enslaved by his uncle, and every step of his life looked like fate was rolling loaded dice against him. He had a magical sword, sure, but that didn't help when he accidentally slept with his own sister. Once the truth hit, she ended her life, and Kullervo's spiral only got darker. Finally, he asked his sword if it would drink his blood. The sword said yes, and Kullervo fell on it. That's his legacy, a cursed life where revenge and grief fed into each other until nothing was left. In the Kalevala, Kullervo isn't a hero. He's a warning that some bloodlines are doomed from the start. Curse of the Pharaohs. Egyptian pharaohs didn't just build tombs, they built warnings. Inscriptions promised death to anyone who dared disturb their rest. Most people ignored it, until 1922, when Howard Carter's team opened King Tut's tomb. Suddenly, people started dying. Lord Carnarvon, who financed the dig, among them. The press went wild. Pharaoh's curse! Scientists later blamed bacteria or mold sealed in the chambers, but the timing was too perfect. The legend stuck. Every accident near a tomb became proof of the curse. In truth, Egypt's rulers wanted eternal protection, and in a way, they got it. Thousands of years later, their names still inspire fear. The curse of the pharaohs wasn't about magic. It was about power that refused to stay buried. House of Niobe. Niobe had everything: royalty, beauty, and way too many kids to count. And she bragged about it. Her mistake? Mocking the goddess Leto, who only had 2 children, Apollo and Artemis. The twins didn't take the insult lightly. They killed all of Niobe's sons and most of her daughters in a single day. The family tree was cut down like weeds. Niobe fled, frozen with grief, and the gods transformed her into stone. But even as a rock, she wept, her tears flowing forever. That was her curse, eternal mourning carved into the earth itself. The house of Niobe didn't just fall, it was erased in one stroke. Greek myth loved this moral. Pride isn't just dangerous, it's generational annihilation. House of Cain wasn't just the world's first murderer, he was the first cursed bloodline. After killing his brother Abel, God didn't strike him down. Instead, he marked Cain, forcing him to wander forever, living proof of guilt that never went away. His descendants, farmers, city builders, and outcasts always remembered as carrying the shadow of that first crime. Some later traditions painted them as inventors of weapons or even monsters. The real curse wasn't just exile, it was reputation. You weren't Cain's kid, you were Cain's curse walking around. Generations carried the weight of a single choice, a reminder that one act of jealousy could echo through an entire lineage. The House of Cain wasn't just a family, it was humanity's first cautionary tale. Nibelungs. The Nibelungs weren't ruined by enemies, they were ruined by treasure. In the German legend, their hoard came with a curse. Whoever owned it would lose everything. Siegfried, the dragon slayer, claimed it, but betrayal followed. He was killed by his in-laws, and his widow Kriemhild lit the fuse on one of the bloodiest revenge stories in legend. Feasts turned to massacres, whole dynasties wiped out, all because nobody could resist cursed gold. The story is immortalized in the Nibelungenlied, Germany's great epic, where greed poisons every alliance. Later, Wagner turned it into operas, and Tolkien borrowed the vibe for Middle-earth's doomed hordes. The Nibelungs' legacy is simple. It wasn't fate or the gods that crushed them. It was treasure so shiny, it destroyed everyone who touched it. House of Usher. The House of Usher is proof you don't need gods or dragons to curse a family. Sometimes decay does the job. Poe's fictional dynasty was old money gone wrong. Generations of isolation and inbreeding left the bloodline fragile and sick. Roderick Usher could barely stand sunlight or sound. His sister Madeline hovered between life and death until she was buried alive and came back swinging. By the end, she and Roderick died together, and the family mansion literally cracked apart, sinking into the swamp. The curse wasn't a spell, it was rot, mental and physical, eating away until there was nothing left. Poe's Ushers became the ultimate Gothic warning. If your family keeps folding in on itself, eventually the house comes down too. House of Seven Gables. Hawthorne's House of the Seven Gables isn't just Gothic real estate. It's a family curse wrapped in timber and shingles. The Pynchon dynasty rose by accusing a man of witchcraft and stealing his land. Problem: the man cursed them with his dying breath. From then on, every generation was marked by greed, guilt, and the occasional mysterious death. The house itself seemed alive with the weight of sin, swallowing its owners one by one. Characters struggle against paranoia, hidden crimes, and the sense that their family tree is rotting at the roots. The curse wasn't fireballs or plagues, it was moral corruption, the kind you pass on like an inheritance. Hawthorne's message was clear: build a house on stolen ground and the walls remember. House of Habsburg. The Habsburgs were Europe's power dynasty, emperors, kings, rulers of half the continent. But their curse came from within, centuries of inbreeding to keep the bloodline pure. Enter the infamous Habsburg jaw, a facial deformity so extreme it made chewing, speaking, and even surviving difficult. Charles II of Spain, the family's tragic poster child, was so frail and infertile that the entire Spanish branch collapsed with him. Generations of political dominance ended not with assassins or enemies, but with biology saying, enough. The Habsburg curse wasn't divine punishment, it was self-inflicted. A dynasty that tried to preserve itself ended up engineering its own downfall. Proof that sometimes the deadliest curse isn't cast by gods, but by the family dinner table's seating plan. House of Romanov. The Romanovs ruled Russia for 300 years, but their ending was straight out of a tragic ballad. Their curse began with hemophilia, a genetic disorder passed down through royal intermarriage. The heir, Alexei, suffered constant bleeding, and his parents clung to mystics like Rasputin, hoping for miracles. Rasputin's influence poisoned the dynasty's reputation, just as revolution was brewing. In 1917, the empire cracked, and the family was executed in a basement, their line effectively erased. For centuries, they had lived in palaces of gold, but in the end, their downfall felt inevitable. Fragile blood, bad decisions, and the weight of history. The Romanov curse wasn't a sorcerer's spell. It was the slow bleed of fate, politics, and one bad century catching up all at once. Kennedy family. The Kennedys are basically America's royal family, if every coronation came with a funeral. JFK's presidency ended in Dallas with an assassin's bullet. His brother Robert, same fate, mid-campaign. John Jr., a plane crash off the coast. Other siblings faced accidents, overdoses, or tragedies that kept piling up. By the time tabloids called it the Kennedy curse, it felt like destiny had a personal grudge. Of course, the real explanation is power plus visibility. High-risk careers, constant media, and a huge family tree mean more chances for bad luck. But myths don't care about statistics. The Kennedys became America's Oedipus story. Dazzling, ambitious, and doomed. A dynasty with power in its blood, and tragedy baked right into the family brand. Grimaldi curse. The Grimaldis of Monaco live in a seaside palace straight out of a postcard, but legend says their family tree is cursed in love. The story goes that in the 13th century, a woman betrayed by a Grimaldi swore that none of his descendants would ever find happiness in marriage. Fast forward, divorces, scandals, and tragedies seem to back her up. The most famous heartbreak? Princess Grace, Hollywood star turned royal, who died young in a car crash, sealing the curse in public imagination. Every messy romance since gets treated like prophecy fulfilled. Whether it's superstition or just high drama under the paparazzi spotlight, the Grimaldi's crown comes with a side of heartbreak. Turns out even fairy tale castles can echo with bad vows. Nepal Shah dynasty. The Shah dynasty of Nepal ruled for over 2 centuries, but from the beginning, whispers said their line would end in blood. For years, it was just a dark prophecy, until 2001, when it came true in the worst way possible. Crown Prince Dipendra walked into a royal dinner and opened fire, killing the king, queen, and most of his own family before turning the gun on himself. In one night, the dynasty shattered. The monarchy limped on briefly, but by 2008 it was gone for good. People looked back at the prophecy and said fate had simply collected its debt. The Shahs weren't toppled by foreign invaders or palace intrigue. Their curse came from within, and it hit all at once. Blair Witch. The Blair Witch isn't royalty, but her curse works just as well. In 1700s Maryland, a woman named Ellie Kedward was accused of witchcraft and dumped in the woods to die. Locals said she didn't just die, she cursed the town. Kids vanished, settlers disappeared, and suddenly the forest felt like it was breathing. Centuries later, the story survived as a whispered curse passed down like bad family heirlooms. Then, the Blair Witch Project hit, turning urban legend into pop culture terror. Unlike Greek dynasties, you don't need a family tree to suffer this curse. Just live near the woods, and you're in the bloodline by default. It's proof curses don't retire. They just change addresses and wait for the next victim. Swan Maiden. The Swan Maiden curse looks like a romance at first. A hunter steals a magical swan woman's feather cloak, trapping her as his wife. They have kids, build a family, but the curse starts there. She eventually escapes back to the sky, leaving children marked by loss and a bloodline that feels other. Across Europe and Asia, these families were whispered about. Unlucky, restless, forever chasing something they couldn't hold. Folklore says it's what happens when love is built on theft. Instead of gold or swords, the inheritance was abandonment, a wound that rippled down generations. No firestorms, no monsters, just broken trust written into a family tree. The Swan Maiden didn't just fly away, she left a curse stitched into her children's wings. The House of Borgia. The Borgias were basically the Renaissance version of a reality show, except with more poison. Rodrigo Borgia climbs all the way to Pope Alexander VI, and suddenly Rome can't stop talking. His son Cesare is out there carving up Italy like it's his personal chessboard, while Lucrezia is stuck with a reputation that swings between angel and villain depending on who's gossiping. But power doesn't play favorites. Rodrigo dies suddenly. Rumor says his own cup did him in. Cesare's empire, gone almost overnight. What's left? A family name that became shorthand for corruption, scandal, and downfall. The Borgias prove a curse doesn't always come from witches or gods. Sometimes it's just ambition turning into a self-destruct button. Wodeyar royal family of Mysore. Back in the 1600s, the Wodeyars grabbed the throne from Queen Alamalama. She didn't go quietly. She cursed them. No king of Mysore would ever have a stable line of heirs. And history seemed to back her up. Sons kept dying early, and adoption became the go-to fix. Even in modern times, sudden deaths kept the whispers alive. The queen's curse is still here. Imagine ruling for centuries, but never shaking the feeling that your family tree is cracked from the roots. Wars, politics, invaders, they survived all of that. But their biggest enemy was a single sentence shouted by a dying queen. That's a reminder. Steal a crown if you want, but curses collect interest. From Greek kings to modern ghost stories, cursed bloodlines never really die. They just reinvent themselves. What all these families prove is simple. Inheritances aren't always fortune. Sometimes it's a curse with your name on it. If you enjoyed this, stick around for the next one. And hey, subscribing wouldn't hurt.